The rain hammered down like God's own judgment, turning the cracked asphalt of that forgotten Indiana driveway into a mirror of shattered dreams. Brandon's duffel bag hit the mud first, followed by the sharp crack of his father's palm across his cheek. Not hard enough to bruise, but enough to echo the finality of exile. "You're no son of mine," Harlan spat, his voice a gravelly thunder that drowned out the storm. "And if hell's got a vacancy for faggots, that's where you're headed. Now get the fuck off my property before I make you." Brandon didn't look back as he slung the bag over his shoulder and trudged toward the Greyhound station in Terre Haute, the downpour soaking through his thrift store flannel like it was trying to wash away the sin his father had branded him with. At 18, he was all sharp angles and unspoken fire, 6 feet of lean muscle from farm work he hated, hazel eyes that could pierce like arrowheads, and a mop of chestnut hair that curled defiantly at the ends even when drenched. The bus ride to Chicago was a blur of fluorescent lights and the stench of wet regret, but by dawn, he'd hitched another ride east, thumb out like a prayer to whatever indifferent deity might listen. New York, he decided in that fevered haze, was where dreams went to die or be reborn, far from the cornfields and Bible thumpers who'd raised him. Home had been a double-wide trailer on the edge of a dying town called Blackford, where the Wabash River slithered like a guilty secret through rusted silos. Harlan Wheeler, a Vietnam vet turned auto mechanic, ruled it with an iron fist wrapped in faded American flags. His second wife, Lila, Brandon's mom since he was 5, had tried to soften the edges, baking apple pies that tasted like apologies. But it was Shane who made the house bearable. Shane with his easy grin and calloused hands that smelled of motor oil and fresh-cut hay. Shane was 2 years older, Harlan's blood from his first marriage, but he'd always been the golden boy, captain of the high school wrestling team, valedictorian whisperer, the one who could charm a skittish filly or talk down Harlan's bourbon-fueled rages. They weren't blood brothers. Not really. Shane's mom had split when he was a toddler, leaving Harlan to raise him alone until Lila came along with her kindergarten teacher smile and a boy in tow. But in Blackford, where everyone knew everyone's sins, they were brothers in every way that mattered, sharing a room with posters of Springsteen and the Colts, trading secrets under the covers after lights out. Shane's arm slung protectively over Brandon's shoulder during those awkward teenage years when the world started feeling like a trap. It was Shane who'd found the crumpled note in Brandon's jeans pocket that spring night. "I love you more than I should. Meet me at the river, Jay." Jake Harlan, the quarterback with a girlfriend on each arm and a homophobic dad who owned the local feed store. Brandon had been crushing hard, stupidly, the kind of ache that made his chest hollow out. He'd gone, heart pounding like a bass drum, only for Jake to show up with a couple of buddies, their laughter turning to fists when Brandon tried to explain. "Fucking queer," Jake had sneered, blood blooming on Brandon's lip as the punches landed. Shane had pulled him out of it, hauling him home through the back fields, whispering, "It's okay, Bran. We'll figure it out." But Harlan found the note the next morning, piecing it together with the bruises and the whispers at church. The explosion was biblical. Screams that rattled the thin walls, Lila's sobs muffled in the kitchen, Shane frozen in the doorway like a statue carved from regret. "You let this happen under my roof?" Harlan bellowed at Shane, who just shook his head, eyes on the floor. And then, the verdict: Brandon was out. No discussion, no second chances. Lila begged, her hands twisting the hem of her apron, but Harlan's word was law. Shane said nothing, his silence a blade twisting deeper than any shout. As Brandon fled, He caught a glimpse through the rain-streaked window. Shane standing in the doorway of their shared room, already boxing up Brandon's comics and sneakers, stacking them neatly by the door. The betrayal burned hotter than the slap. His brother, the one person who'd sworn they'd face the world together, was the first to claim the spoils of his exile. The room was Shane's now, the top bunk empty, the faded Mets cap on the wall peg a mocking trophy. Brandon hit the bus with that image seared into his brain, vowing never to look back. New York swallowed him whole. He crashed on a buddy's couch in Astoria, Queens, dodging eviction notices and hunger pangs by slinging burgers at a diner off Steinway Street. The city was a beast, honking taxis, steam rising from grates like dragon breath, faces from every corner of the globe blurring past in a symphony of survival. Brandon learned fast, blend in, hustle hard, keep your heart locked down. He enrolled at community college on a partial scholarship, majoring in graphic design because it let him hide behind screens and pixels. Nights were for dive bars in the village, where the air hummed with possibility and pain, men with hungry eyes and stories sadder than his own. He had flings, fleeting as summer thunder. A tattooed barista named Marco who ghosted after a weekend of tangled sheets, a Wall Street type called Derek who paid for dinners but flinched at public handholding. None stuck. None healed the scar Shane's silence had left. Brandon built walls higher than the Brooklyn Bridge, pouring his rage into sketches, jagged cityscapes, fractured faces, brothers turned strangers. By 22, he'd scraped together a portfolio that landed him a junior gig at a midtown ad agency, trading greasy aprons for slim ties and client lunches. Success tasted like ash. It was freedom, sure, but the kind that echoed with emptiness. Back in Blackford, life ground on without him. Shane finished community college with an associate's in business, took over Harlan's garage when the old man's liver gave out after a bender. Lila remarried a deacon from the Methodist Church, her letters to Brandon polite but sparse, always skirting the wound. Shane's doing well. Asks about you sometimes. Bullshit, Brandon thought, crumpling them unread. He pictured Shane in their old room, now his domain. Queen bed where the bunks once stood, walls repainted a bland beige to erase the ghosts. Shane married Emily 2 years after Brandon left, a sweet girl from the diner with corn silk hair and a laugh like wind chimes. They had a kid on the way by year 3, a boy they named Harlan Jr., as if rewriting history could fix it. But photos on Facebook, Shane's profile public, a masochistic itch Brandon scratched late at night, told a different story. The grins grew forced, Emily's eyes shadowed in family Christmas cards. Whispers filtered back through mutual acquaintances. Money troubles at the garage, Harlan's debts like anchors dragging them under. Shane posted about tough times with Bible quotes overlaid on sunsets, but Brandon saw the cracks, the late-night drives to Terre Haute bars, the way Shane's shoulders hunched like he was carrying the weight of 2 lost boys. 5 years blurred into a rhythm of deadlines and denial. Brandon climbed to senior designer, affording a 1-bedroom in Williamsburg with exposed brick and a view of the East River that mocked his solitude. He dated sporadically, a theater kid named Alex who quoted Whitman during sex, a firefighter called Ryan who punched walls when jealousy flared. But love? That was a foreign country, one he'd been deported from long ago. Until the email arrived on a muggy August morning. Subject line, "From the Heartland, need to talk." It was from Shane. "Bran, it's been too long. Things are falling apart here. Am left with the kid last month. Dad's gone. Garage is drowning. I know I fucked up. Can we meet? I'm coming to the city next week for a job fair. Please. Your brother, Shane. Brandon stared at the screen, coffee turning cold in his mug. Rage boiled up, hot and familiar. How dare he? After the silence, after claiming the room like a conqueror, but beneath it, a treacherous flicker. The boy who'd bandaged his scrapes, shared stolen Marlboros behind the barn, whispered, "I got you in the dark." He typed back before he could think. Fine. Thursday, 7 p.m. The Rusty Nail, East Village. Don't be late. The Rusty Nail was a dive straight out of a Springsteen ballad. Sticky floors, jukebox crooning Tom Waits, bartenders with stories etched in tattoos. Brandon arrived early, nursing a whiskey neat, his button-down crisp but his pulse erratic. What the hell was he doing? Forgiveness wasn't in his vocabulary. Betrayal was a one-way street. The door swung open at 7:03, and there he was, Shane Wheeler, broader now, lines etched around his blue eyes, hair cropped military short, wearing jeans faded at the knees and a flannel that smelled faintly of engine grease even across the room. "Bran," Shane said, voice rough as the Wabash in flood, sliding onto the stool beside him. Close. The changes hit like a gut punch. The paunch from desk work and despair, the wedding ring 10-line raw on his finger, stubble silvering at the temples. But those eyes, stormy blue, same as always, locked on Brandon's with a desperation that stripped him bare. "You look good," Shane added, awkward as a schoolboy, signaling the bartender for a beer. "City suits you," Brandon snorted, the whiskey burning down. "Says the guy who kicked me to the curb." "What do you want?" "Shane? Absolution? Alone? 'Cause I'm fresh out of both." Shane winced, fingers drumming the scarred wood. "I didn't kick you out." "Dad." "Fuck Dad." Brandon cut in, voice low venom. "You stood there. Packed my shit like I was moving dorms. Took the room before the door even closed." The words hung heavy, the jukebox shifting to a mournful Dylan track. Shane's beer arrived. He drained half in one pull, Adam's apple bobbing. "I was scared." "Okay, teen. Fresh out of high school. Dad screaming about hellfire. I thought, if I acted normal, it'd blow over. Protect you by pretending." "Stupid kid shit." "Stupid," Brandon echoed, the word a whip crack. 5 years. Shane. Not a call, not a postcard. And now Emily bails. Garage tanks. And suddenly I'm the lifeline. Shane's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Yeah, well, karma's a bitch. Am found out about things. Left me for her high school sweetheart. Kids with her in Ohio now. Harlan's debts ate the savings. I'm here begging for a couch, a job lead, anything. But mostly," he trailed off, eyes dropping to the bar. "Mostly, I miss my brother." The admission cracked something in Brandon. A fissure he hadn't known was there. He wanted to bolt, to drown it in another round. But Shane's hand, rough, familiar, brushed his arm, tentative as a question. "One drink," Brandon muttered. "Then we see." They talked, halting at first, words tumbling like rocks in a rockslide. Shane spun tales of Blackford's slow rot, the mill closing, opioids claiming half the class of '09, Lila's new husband preaching sermons on family values that rang false as fool's gold. Brandon countered with city grit, the agency poaching his ideas, hookups that left him emptier, the 4th of July fireworks over the Hudson that made him ache for fireflies in the fields. By the second hour, the whiskey softened edges, laughter slipping in like old accomplices. Shane's knee bumped Brandon's under the bar, lingering a beat too long, and neither pulled away. "Remember the river?" Shane asked, voice dropping. "That night with Jake's crew. I carried you half a mile, you puking in the weeds." Brandon's throat tightened. "You said we'd run away. California, surf and freedom. We were idiots." Shane's gaze held, intense, searching. "But I meant it. Still do." The air thickened, charged like the storm back home. Brandon's pulse thrummed, a dangerous heat coiling low. This was his brother, not by blood, but by every scar and secret. The one who'd taught him to drive stick in Harlan's old Ford, who'd covered for him when Lila found the hidden playgirl under the mattress. The betrayal stung, but so did the pull, magnetic and forbidden. "Crash at mine," Brandon heard himself say, the invitation reckless. "One night. We'll talk tomorrow." Shane nodded, relief flooding his face. But as they stepped into the muggy night, arms brushing on the sidewalk, Brandon wondered if he'd just invited the wolf to his door, or the salvation he'd been running from all along. The subway ride to Williamsburg was a rattle of steel and strangers. The two of them squeezed shoulder to shoulder on a plastic bench, Shane's duffel at their feet like a reluctant truce flag. Brandon stole glances, Shane's profile lit by the flickering ads for off-Broadway shows and personal injury lawyers, jaw set in that stubborn line he'd always had when stealing for a fight. The air between them hummed with unsaid things, the kind that could detonate or dissolve depending on the next word. "Your place fancy now?" Shane asked, breaking the silence, his knee still pressed warm against Brandon's. Brandon shrugged, the whiskey buzz fading into wariness. "Rooftop deck, craft beer fridge." "What? You picturing me in a penthouse with chandeliers?" "Nah. Just proud, I guess." "You made it out." The platform dinged, spitting them into the humid Brooklyn night. They walked the few blocks in companionable quiet, the city alive with laughter spilling from brownstones, the sizzle of halal carts cutting through the haze. Brandon's building was a converted warehouse, graffiti-faded brick climbing to lofts that whispered of artists and ambition. The elevator creaked up to the 4th floor, depositing them at his door, number 4B. The brass plate slightly askew from a rowdy tenant who'd moved out last winter. Inside, the space was pure Brandon, exposed ducks overhead, a drafting table piled with sketches of brooding cityscapes, a king bed shoved against the window where moonlight pooled like spilled mercury. Posters of Basquiat and the Ramones ward with a single photo from Blackford, a faded Polaroid of them at 14, arms slung around each other at the county fair, cotton candy staining their grins. Shane dropped his bag, whistling low. "Damn, Bran. This is you. Make yourself at home," Brandon said, flipping on a lamp that cast golden shadows. He rummaged in the fridge, pulling IPAs, local brews with names like Hop Devil that made Shane chuckle. They settled on the couch, a sagging leather beast salvaged from a stoop sale, legs stretched toward the coffee table littered with takeout menus and dog-eared Vonnegut paperbacks. Talk flowed easier here, lubricated by hops and the illusion of safety. Shane unspooled the unraveling of his marriage. Emily's growing distance after Harlan Jr., the nights she'd cry into her pillow about feeling trapped, the final straw when she found his browser history, late-night searches for men kissing, that he'd chalked up to curiosity but knew ran deeper. "She called me confused," Shane said, voice cracking on the edge of a laugh. "Said I was broken, that God didn't make queers in Blackford." Brandon's grip tightened on his bottle. "And you? What do you say?" Shane met his eyes, unflinching. "I say I've been lying to myself since we were kids. Watching you, Bran, how you owned it, even when it hurt, made me question everything." The confession landed like a live wire, sparking memories Brandon had buried deep. The way Shane's gaze lingered in the locker room after wrestling practice, towel slung low on narrow hips, the shared showers where soap-slick skin brushed accidental on purpose, the night after prom, both dateless, drunk on Boone's farm in the bed of Harlan's truck, Shane's hand on his thigh burning hotter than the stars overhead. They'd never crossed that line. Fear was a hell of a chastity belt, but the tension had simmered, unspoken, until Brandon's scandal boiled it over. "You packed my room," Brandon said softly, the accusation dulled by beer and proximity. "Like erasing me." Shane set his bottle down, leaning forward, elbows on knees. "I was gutted. Dad's boot on your neck. Mom crying, I froze. Thought if I tidied up, made it neat, it'd unmake the mess. Slept in your bunk that first night, sheets still smelling like you. Jerked off to the memory of your laugh, hating myself for it." His voice dropped. "Bro, I took the room to keep you close, not let go. Pathetic, right?" Brandon's breath hitched, the room shrinking to the space between them. Shane's cologne, cheap Old Spice mixed with sweat and home, filled his lungs, stirring an ache he'd medicated with strangers. "Not pathetic," he murmured, hand lifting unbidden to trace the scar above Shane's eyebrow, a relic from a dirt bike crash they'd covered up together. "Human." Shane caught his wrist, thumb stroking the pulse point, eyes darkening to indigo. "Bran." The kiss was inevitable, a collision born of 5 years' starvation. Shane surged forward, lips crashing against Brandon's with a desperation that tasted of regret and revelation. Rough at first, beard scraping, then softening into something achingly tender. Brandon's fingers knotted in Shane's flannel, pulling him closer, the couch creaking under their shift. Shane's mouth was hot, insistent, tongue tracing the seam like a man dying of thirst, and Brandon opened for him, a moan escaping as hands roamed. Shane's calluses mapping ribs, hips, the dip of his spine. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, Shane's breath ragged. "Fuck. I've wanted this since the river," Brandon finished, nipping his lower lip. "Me too." Clothes shed in a frenzy. Flannel pooling on the floor, button-down yanked over Shane's head to reveal the tattoo Brandon had never known about. Their initials intertwined on his collarbone, inked in Terre Haute the week after Brandon left. "A reminder," Shane whispered, guiding Brandon's mouth there, "that you're inked in me." They tumbled to the bed, bodies slotting like puzzle pieces long separated. Shane's weight pinning him deliciously, thighs bracketing hips, cocks grinding through denim with friction that bordered on pain. Brandon arched, nails digging crescents into Shane's back, the city noise fading to a dull roar. Shane's kisses trailed fire down his neck, chest, pausing at scars from that night with Jake. Gentle, reverent, as if apology could be etched in lips. When they finally stripped bare, vulnerability hit like cold water. Shane hovered, eyes tracing Brandon's form, the lean runner's build from pounding pavement in Central Park, the freckles dusting his shoulders like stars. "Beautiful," he breathed, hand wrapping around Brandon's length, stroking slow, deliberate. Brandon bucked, cursing softly, then flipped them, taking control, mouth exploring every inch, tongue swirling over Shane's navel, the V of his hips, until Shane was writhing, please tumbling out in that gravel voice. They moved together, slick and urgent, fingers probing, prep hasty with lube from the nightstand, Shane's gasps turning to groans as Brandon sank into him, inch by searing inch. It was messy, emotional, tears pricking Brandon's eyes as Shane clenched around him, whispering love you, brother, always. The rhythm built, frantic, cathartic, climax crashing like Atlantic waves, leaving them tangled, sweat slick, hearts hammering in sync. After, in the quiet hum of the AC, Shane traced lazy patterns on Brandon's chest. This changes everything, Brandon swallowed, the high fading into reality's shadow. Yeah. But what now? You go back to Blackford. Play straight daddy? Shane tensed, then sighed. Garage is circling the drain. Thinking of selling, starting over. Here, maybe. With you. The words dangled, a lifeline or a noose. Brandon wanted to believe it, waking to Shane's coffee breath, building something real amid the skyscrapers. But trust was a fragile thing, shattered once before. One step, he said finally, kissing Shane's temple. Stay the week. We'll see. Dawn crept in, painting the room rose gold. They dozed, limbs entwined, the East River glittering below like a promise. But as Shane snored softly, Brandon stared at the ceiling, ghosts whispering, he took your room once. What if he takes your heart and runs? The week unfolded like a fever dream. Lazy mornings of pancakes and blowjobs, afternoons exploring the city hand in hidden hand, evenings where Shane's stories peeled back layers of his exile. They hit the high line, Shane's arm brushing Brandon's as tourists milled oblivious, shared falafel in Tompkins Square, laughing over spilled tahini like kids again. Sex was a revelation, slow and exploratory one night, Shane topping with a gentleness that unraveled Brandon, rough and reclaiming the next, walls shaking as they chased oblivion. But cracks spiderwebbed in. Shane's phone buzzed incessantly, Emily demanding alimony papers, a lawyer from Terre Haute pressing for the garage sale. It's nothing, he'd mutter, silencing it, but the shadow lingered. And then, the elephant, family. Lila called midweek, voice trembling over speaker. Shane? That you in New York? Brandon. Oh God. Is he there? They froze, pancakes half-eaten. Shane hit mute, eyes pleading. Tell her, Bran. Or I will. Brandon's stomach nodded. Mom. Yeah. It's me. The floodgates opened, apologies tumbling, sobs for lost years, Harlan's ghost haunting every word. I should have fought harder, Lila wept. Your stepdad, he's softer, but I know I failed you. Shane gripped Brandon's hand under the table, a silent vow. But when Lila asked about you two getting along, the lie stuck in Brandon's throat like glass. By week's end, the air thickened with decision. Shane had a callback interview at an auto shop in Queens, Emily texting tentative co-parenting plans. Stay, Brandon urged that last night, bodies spent on rumpled sheets. Build with me, Shane kissed him fierce. But dawn brought hesitation, his duffel repacked, excuses about tying loose ends. 2 weeks, he promised at the door. lips lingering. Then I'm all in. Brandon nodded, throat tight, watching him vanish into the elevator. The apartment echoed emptier than before, sketches mocking from the table. He threw himself into work, designs sharper with suppressed fury. But nights brought dreams of that driveway rain, Shane's silhouette in the window. 2 weeks stretched to 3, texts growing sparse, dealing with lawyers. Miss you. Then silence. Panic clawed, Brandon called. Voicemail a cold void. A Facebook scroll revealed the knife. Shane's status updated. Photo of him and Emily at a Terre Haute diner. Caption second chances. Family first. Blessed. Harlan Jr. grinning between them, Shane's arm around her waist. Betrayal hit like Harlan's slap. Amplified, not just the room, but the bed, the promises, the I love you gasped in ecstasy. Brandon hurled his phone, glass shattering against brick, then sank to the floor, sobs racking him silent. Shane hadn't just taken his room. He'd raided his soul, left it gutted. The agency was a buzz of fluorescent ambition, but Brandon moved through it like a ghost. Deadlines met with mechanical precision. Client pitches laced with venom that passed for edge. His boss, a chain-smoking ad exec named Carla with a perm like steel wool, noticed. "Wheeler, you're on fire," she barked during a pitch meeting. Slides of his latest campaign. A gritty jeans ad with brooding models under Midwest skies, drawing nods from the suits. "This one's got heart." "What's your secret?" "Old wounds," Brandon muttered, forcing a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. He buried deeper after that, logging overtime that blurred into all-nighters. The Williamsburg loft, a mausoleum of takeout boxes and unwashed sheets. Friends. Alex the theater dreamer. Ryan the firefighter with anger issues, texted check-ins. But he ghosted them. Too raw for pity. Sex with strangers resumed. Anonymous apps lighting up his phone. A finance bro in a midtown hotel who bit too hard. A barback from Bushwick who whispered you're safe but vanished by morning. Sleep brought no mercy. Nightmares of Shane's grin twisting to Harlan's sneer. The river swelling to drown them both. Waking sweat-soaked, Brandon would pace the fire escape. City lights mocking his isolation. Blackford felt like a myth now, a cautionary tale of roots that strangled. But Shane's ghost lingered in the fridge, that half-empty IPA bottle. The bed, indents from his broader frame. The tattoo peeking from Brandon's shirt collar. A matching SWB inked impulsively post-reunion. Now a brand of folly. October chilled the air. Leaves carpeting the streets in fiery decay. The callback from Queens? A lie Shane hadn't bothered to maintain. Digging through deleted texts, Brandon pieced the scam. Shane had flown back the day after, straight to Emily's doorstep with roses and remorse, spinning tales of city confusion to win her trust. The diner photo was staged, but real enough. Harlan Jr.'s hug, Emily's wary smile, Shane's caption a public absolution. A mutual friend from high school, Tara the librarian, confirmed it in a pity DM, heard he's reconciling. Says it was a phase. Brother stuff gone wrong. Sorry, Bran. Rage crystallized into action. Brandon booked a flight to Indianapolis. Impulse. Yes. But laced with masochistic clarity. If Shane wanted to play family man, he'd witness the wreckage firsthand. The drive from the airport in a rented Impala mirrored that old Greyhound route. Cornfields whipping past like accusations. Blackford hadn't changed. Same sagging porches, Same faded Trump 2020 signs peeling in the wind, the Wabash murmuring secrets to the willows. The trailer park was a time capsule, Lila's Prius in the drive, Harlan's old swing rusting on the porch. Brandon parked curbside, heart hammering, and knocked. Lila answered, flour-dusted apron over her house dress, eyes widening to saucers. Brandon? Oh, honey. She pulled him into a hug that smelled of yeast rolls and vanilla, her frame bird-fragile against his. What? How? Needed to see it, he said, voice steady despite the quake inside. Shane around, she deflated, ushering him to the kitchen where coffee percolated on the counter. He's at the garage. But Bran? Complicated. He came back broken from the city, talking nonsense about feelings, past mistakes. Emily took him back for the boy, but it's fragile. Church counseling, the works. Brandon's laugh was sharp, mirthless. Counseling. For what? Loving his brother wrong. Lila paled, hand fluttering to her throat. He told you? Lord, I suspected, back when you two were thick as thieves. But Harlan, he would have killed you both. Tears welled, carving tracks through her makeup. I failed you, baby. Should have loaded the car that night, driven you myself. The words pierced, thawing a decade's frost. Brandon pulled her close, murmuring it's okay even as it wasn't. They talked for hours, Lila unburdening years of quiet complicity, the deacon's hypocrisy, her secret fund tucked away for if you ever need it. By noon, resolve hardened. Confront Shane, sever the tie clean. The garage was a squat cinder block on Route 40, Wheeler auto sign flickering neon even in daylight. Brandon pulled up, gravel crunching, and spotted Shane under a jacked-up Chevy, grease-streaked overalls hugging his frame, wrench in hand. The sight hit like vertigo, muscle memory of boyhood Saturdays handing tools, Shane's winks over Harlan's shoulder. Shane, Brandon called, voice carrying over the country radio twang. Shane froze, wrench clattering to the concrete. He straightened slow, wiping forearms on a rag, blue eyes wide with shock that morphed to guilt. Bran? What the hell? Save it. Brandon stepped closer, ignoring the mechanic's apprentice gaping from the bay door. Saw the post. Second chances. Huh? Emily's got you on a short leash now. Shane's jaw clenched, glancing around like Harlan might materialize. Not here. Office. The back room was a clutter of invoices and faded calendars, air thick with oil and tension. Door shut. Shane rounded on him. You shouldn't have come. This is my life. Your life. Brandon's voice rose, fists balled. You slimed into mine, fucked me over worse than Dad. Whispered love you while balls deep, then bolted for the picket fence. What was it, Bran? A weekend itch? Midlife queer crisis. Shame flushed Shane's neck, but defiance sparked. It wasn't a game. You think leaving was easy? Emily's pregnant again. Miscarried last year. Didn't tell you. She needs stability. The kid needs a dad. I can't append that for us. For us? Brandon echoed, bitter. There is no us. You made that clear when you packed my shit and played house. Shane advanced, crowding him against the desk, breath hot. I froze then. Yeah. But in New York, that was real. Woke up every morning wanting your coffee, your laugh, your body under mine. But Blackford. pulls you under. Dad's voice in my head. Church stairs. I panicked. Brandon shoved him back, chest heaving. Panic? That's your excuse for ghosting? For lying to her? To me? You're a coward. Shane. Always were. The slap came from nowhere. Shan's palm cracking across Brandon's cheek. Echo of Harlan's farewell. Time stopped. The sting blooming red. Shane recoiled. Horror dawning. Fuck Bran. I didn't. Brandon touched his face, tasting blood from a split lip, then laughed, low and broken. Full circle. Get out of my sight. He stormed out, gravel flying under tires, Blackford shrinking in the rearview. The airport bar was a merciful blur, bourbon shots until the flight boarded. Seatmates' concerned glances ignored. Back in Brooklyn, the loft felt like a cage. He called out sick, binging Springsteen vinyls until the needle scratched. Carla dragged the truth from him over lunch a week later. Ditch the pity party, Wheeler. Channel it. Her noble shit pep talk lit a fuse. He pitched a bold campaign, raw and unfiltered, landing the agency's biggest client, a queer-owned apparel line celebrating outcast kings. Success surged. A bomb on the bruise. Brandon hit the gym, muscles hardening like armor. Therapy sessions unpacked the brother-shaped hole. Therapist Dr. Reyes nodding sagely over ambiguous loss. Holidays loomed solitary, Thanksgiving turkey for one. Christmas lights strung solo. But he volunteered at a youth center in Harlem, mentoring queer kids with stories eerily like his, cast outs with fire in their veins. January brought snow, blanketing the city in hush. A package arrived unannounced, Lila's handwriting on the label. Inside, Harlan's old pocket watch, engraved time heals, and a letter Shane's spiraling. Garage sold. Emily filed for divorce. He asks your forgiveness daily. I know it's not mine to give, but he loves you, Bran. Always has. Mom. Brandon's hand shook, watch ticking like a heartbeat. Forgiveness? A myth for saints. But curiosity gnawed. Had Shane's empire crumbled? Or was this another hook? He Googled. Impulsive. Local news snippet. Blackford auto sold amid scandal. Digging deeper. A police blotter. Domestic disturbance. Shane arrested for shoving Emily during an argument. Charges dropped but whispers of his city fling poisoning the well. Pity stirred. Unwanted. A text to Tara. Shane's number? Reply swift. He's a mess. Be gentle. The call connected on the third ring. Shane's voice wrecked gravel. Bran? That you? Yeah. Pause. Heavy. Heard about the shit show. Laughter. Choked. Understatement. Lost the garage. Am's gone for good. Kid hates me. Living in a motel off 40. Fixing lawnmowers for cash. Silence. Then, I fucked up. Royally. Can we talk? For real this time. Brandon's resolve wavered. The watch warm in his palm. Fly out. My treat. But no promises. 2 days later, JFK's arrivals churned with reunions. Shane emerged rumpled. Duffel slung. Eyes hollowed by regret. No embrace this time, just a nod. The drive home tense with small talk. Weather. Flights. The Mets' dismal season. Williamsburg welcomed him wary. The loft aired out but echoes lingering. They circled each other that first night. Take-out tie on the couch. Boundaries firm. I'm done playing house, Brandon said. Chopsticks poised. Therapy. Honesty, no more half measures. Shane nodded. Earnest. In. All in. Seeing a counselor back home. Figuring the queer part. Want you with me. If you'll have me. Weeks bled into months. A tentative rebuild. Shane crashed on the couch. Then the bed when trust thawed, sex sidelined for talks. Hands held over coffee. Shane's apologies a litany. For the silence, the betrayal, the slap. He job hunted, landing steady at a Brooklyn garage specializing in EVs. His mechanical genius adapting to hybrids. Co-parenting calls with Emily were civil. Harlan Jr.'s FaceTimes a bridge of giggles and Uncle Bran. But conflict brewed, inevitable as thunder. Spring bloomed. Pride Month approaching. Brandon's agency sponsoring a float. Him leading the design. Shane balked. Anxiety spiking. Crowds. Signs. What if it hits the Terre Haute feed? Kid sees his dad marching. Brandon's temper flared. Old wounds raw. Hiding again? Thought we were past this. It's not hiding. It's protecting him. Us. The fight escalated. Voices echoing off brick. Accusations of selfishness. Cowardice. Brandon slamming the door to crash at Alex's. Days of radio silence. Shane's texts pleading. Don't let me ruin this. Reconciliation came halting. Over beers at the Rusty Nail. Shane's hand in his under the bar. A vow, I'll march. For you. For us. Pride was cathartic chaos. Rainbow streamers whipping in the wind. Shane's grip tight amid the throng. Tears mixing with sweat as they cheered queer anthems. That night, lovemaking was reclamation. Slow. Sacred. Shane's body arching under Brandon's like surrender. Yet betrayal's shadow loomed. June's end brought Emily's email. Custody battle looming. Her lawyer citing Shane's lifestyle change as risk. Panic gripped. Shane spiraling into overtime. Bottles emptying faster. She'll take him, he muttered one dawn. Head in hands. Because of me loving you. Brandon pulled him close. Fierce. We'll fight. Together. Summer sweltered. The city a steam bath of asphalt and ambition. The loft became command central, legal pads strewn with notes. Calls to family lawyers in Indiana yielding grim odds. Emily's deacon husband a pillar of community respectability. Shane's past, the arrest. The phase, ammunition. Brandon fronted retainers from his rising star status. Campaigns now gracing billboards from LA to Miami. But money couldn't buy peace. Nights, they'd lie awake. Shane's head on Brandon's chest. Heartbeat a metronome to whispered fears. What if I lose him? What if loving you costs everything? Shane threw himself into atonement. Therapy twice weekly via Zoom. A Blackford support group for men like us. Even reaching out to Jake Harlan. Now a divorced dad himself. For coffee that ended in awkward handshakes and sorries long overdue. Harlan Jr. visited weekends. The kid a whirlwind of Legos and questions. Why'd mommy leave? Daddy? Is Uncle Brandon your boyfriend? Shane fielded with age-appropriate truth. Emily seething via text. Confusing him. This stops. Brandon watched it erode Shane. Lines deepening. Laugh rarer. The man who'd once wrestled bulls now caged by what-ifs. Their intimacy suffered. Sex turned mechanical. A stress valve rather than spark. I feel like a villain, Shane confessed one muggy evening. Rain lashing the windows like judgment. Dragging you into this mess. You're not, Brandon insisted. But doubt crept. Carla at work sensed it. Cornering him in the break room. Love's a battlefield, kid. But don't let it trench you. Her advice stuck. He booked a surprise weekend in the Catskills, a cabin rental with a porch swing and no signal, forcing unplug. The drive upstate was therapy itself, windows down, Springsteen blasting Thunder Road, Shane's hand on Brandon's thigh thawing the ice. The cabin nestled in pines, Adirondack chairs facing a lake glassy as forgiveness. They hiked trails slick with moss, Shane's stories flowing freer. Boyhood crushes on the choir director, stolen glances at wrestling meets. The night he'd almost kissed Brandon under fairground lights but chickened out. Feared it'd break us, he admitted, skipping stones across the water. Didn't know it'd break me anyway. Evenings were firefly magic, grilled steaks, cheap wine, bodies rediscovering rhythm on a quilt under stars. Shane took his time, mapping Brandon with lips and fingers like a cartographer of desire, drawing gasps that echoed off the trees. "You're my north," he murmured post-climax, tangled limbs sticky sweet. Always were, recharged. They returned warriors. The custody hearing loomed in Indianapolis, a September showdown. Brandon cleared his calendar, flying out with Shane, first class. His treat, a small armor against dread. The courthouse was a sterile beast, fluorescent hum underscoring the farce. Emily poised in pearls, her lawyer a shark in pinstripes painting Shane as unstable, influenced by urban vices. Lila testified tearfully for her son, recounting Harlan's tyrannies. But the judge, a stern widow with Bible on the bench, frowned at mentions of alternative lifestyles. Shan's turn gutted them. Voice steady, he owned every flaw, the panic, the lies, the slap, framing it as growth. "I love my son more than breath," he said, eyes locking on the judge. "And I love Brandon, the brother who saved me by leaving, who teaches me courage daily. If that's a sin, judge it. But don't punish my boy for it." Brandon's testimony was fire, eloquent rage at Blackford's bigotry, proof of Shane's stability via pay stubs, therapy logs, pride photos scrubbed wholesome. "Family isn't blood or Bibles," he concluded, voice cracking just once. "It's choosing each other, every damn day." The gavel fell 2 days later, joint custody, supervised visits for Emily's peace, therapy mandated for all. Relief crashed like a wave, Shane weeping in the hall, Lila hugging them both, even Emily's nod grudging respect. "For the kid," she said, signing papers. Back in New York, celebration was quiet, rooftop barbecue, Harlan Jr. on video call blowing bubbles, Shane pulling Brandon into a dance under string lights to Born to Run. Fall gilded the edges, leaves turning, agency promotions landing Brandon creative director, his Outcast Kings line going viral, queer icons from Billy Porter to local drag queens modeling the threads. Shane thrived too, his garage gig evolving to mentorship, teaching apprentices the Wheeler way, honest work, harder love. They adopted a rescue mutt named Scout, a scruffy terrier who claimed the couch as throne, his wagging tail a daily reminder of second acts. But climax brewed in shadows. November brought Blackford's annual Harvest Festival. Lila's invite insistent. "Come home. Show 'em Wheeler boys are unbreakable." Shane yearned, nostalgic. Brandon resisted, scars itching. "It's a victory lap," Shane coaxed. "For us. For Junior." They went, Impala loaded with pies and prejudice-proof resolve. Blackford greeted wary, stares at the airport, whispers in the diner, but Tara's crew rallied, a buffer of old friends turned allies. The fare was Norman Rockwell fever. Hayrides, funnel cakes, bluegrass twanging under harvest moon. Harlan Jr. rode Shane's shoulders, giggling at the pig scramble, while Brandon manned the apple-bobbing booth, kids splashing without a care for his city ways. Evening brought the bonfire, flames leaping high, faces gilded orange. Jake Harlan clapped Shane on the back. Beers exchanged with no hard feelings. Lila danced with her deacon. I soft on her boys. But as midnight neared, Emily appeared, unannounced, face pinched, Junior trailing sleepy. Need to talk, she said, pulling Shane aside. Brandon watched from the fringes, gut twisting. Minutes stretched, laughter around him hollowed. When Shane returned, expression thunderous, dread confirmed. She saw us online, pride pics. The loft threatens full custody unless I end it. Says it's poisoning Junior. The world tilted, bonfire roaring mockery. And you, Brandon whispered, voice steel. Shane's eyes glistened, torn. I told her no. But Bran, she's got the church, the town, betrayal's echo, sharper now. Choose, Brandon demanded, flames reflecting in his hazel stare. Him or me? No half-lives. Shane crumpled, hands fisting hair. You. Always you. But God. The cost. Junior tugged Shane's jeans then. Oblivious. Daddy. Fireworks. The burst lit the sky. Reds. Blues. Golds raining down. But Brandon walked away. Gravel biting boots. The Impala's engine his only farewell. Back in the city alone. He torched the matching tattoo with a laser gun downtown. Skin blistering as ink bled black. Work consumed him, campaigns edgier. Awards piling like barricades. Lila's calls went unanswered. Shane's texts a barrage. Please. I chose you. Fight with me. But trust, once shattered twice, was porcelain dust. Winter bit hard, snow muffling the ache. Carla promoted him again, but victory tasted flat. Therapy drilled deeper, Dr. Reyes probing. What do you fear most? Losing him, or becoming your father, cold, unyielding? Epiphany struck New Year's Eve. Alone on the rooftop, fear of vulnerability, of loving fierce enough to break. He texted Shane, Junior's birthday. I'll come. Neutral ground. The party was a truce, Terre Haute Chuck E. Cheese. Junior's joy a bomb. Shane looked haggard. Emily civil but eyes daggers. Post-cake. As kids rampaged. Shane cornered him in the arcade glow. I filed countersuit. Told the judge everything. Us. The love. No more hiding. Brandon's walls trembled. Why now? Because without you, I'm half a man. The room I took, it was empty without your ghost. Marry me, Bran. Make it legal, unbreakable. Tears pricked. Arcade beeps fading. Yes, Brandon breathed. Kiss ceiling amid token clinks. Messy, hopeful, alive. Spring 2026 unfurled tentative petals. The city thawing into possibility. The wedding was small, humanistic in its raw edges. A rooftop ceremony in Williamsburg under cherry blossoms. Officiant a queer rabbi with tattoos peeking from her collar. Witnesses. Carla barking orders like a drill sergeant. Alex and Ryan toasting with craft cocktails. Lila dabbing eyes with a handkerchief embroidered Wheeler strong. Harlan Jr. ringbearer in a tiny bow tie. scattering petals with gleeful abandon. Emily attended, grudging at first, but softened by Junior's pleas. She even hugged Brandon post-vows, whispering, "Take care of him. He's yours now." Shane stood at the altar in a slim-fit suit. No tie, his concession to Blackford roots. Blue eyes shining as vows exchanged. Promises of honesty, forgiveness, the hard work of chosen family. "You were cast out," Shane said, voice steady, "but you pulled me in. I vow to hold the door. Every storm." Brandon's response cracked laughter through tears. "You took my room. My heart, now take my name." Wheeler Wells. Unbreakable. Rings slid on. Simple titanium bands engraved time heals, and the kiss sealed it. Cheers erupting as Scout barked from Lila's lap. Reception spilled into the loft below. String quartet playing Dancing Queen ironic. Cake a towering queer flag confection. Toasts ranging from Carla's profane "Don't fuck it up" to Junior's garbled "Love you daddies." Dance floor cleared for the brothers, arms around waists. Swaying to Thunder Road, the city skyline winking approval. Honeymoon was low-key. A road trip up the coast. Mustang convertible top-down. Stops at diners echoing their youth. Maine lighthouses for brooding walks. Hand in hand. Provincetown beaches for lazy sun. Bodies oiled and unashamed. Nights in seaside B&Bs brought passion reborn. Shane's mouth worshipful. Brandon's hands mapping new territories. Laughter mingling with moans as waves crashed accompaniment. "This is us," Shane murmured post-glow, fingers tracing Brandon's wedding band. "No more running. Back home. Life wove intricate." Brandon's agency boomed, his Outcast Kings line partnering with Glad. Billboards proclaiming love reclaims. Shane's garage promoted him to manager. Evenings spent wrenching with Brandon sketching logos on napkins, synergy of grease and graphite. Co-parenting stabilized. Emily remarried softer. Visits seamless. Junior dubbing their loft Uncle Castle. Sleepovers filled with fort building and stories of two dads who beat the odds. Conflicts arose. Human scale. Shane's Blackford pull during holidays. Old anxieties flaring at family barbecues where whispers lingered. Brandon's workaholic lapses. Deadlines eclipsing date nights. But they fought fair therapy check-ins. Cool-off walks along the East River. Make-up sex that reaffirmed bonds. Lila visited often. Her deacon thawing into ally. Even mailing rainbow Afghans knitted with "Love is love." Tara's crew became extended kin. Annual Blackford reunions a ritual of reclaimed ground. Hayrides sans judgment. Bonfires where Shane and Brandon stole kisses under harvest moons. Climax revisited in subtler storms. Summer 27 brought junior school drama. Bullies taunting "Your dad's gay." The kid lashing out at home. Shane spiraled, blaming himself. Brandon countered with action. Guest speaking at the youth center on resilience. Junior joining for a workshop where crayons birthed flags of pride. The betrayal echo surfaced in therapy. "What if I taint him?" Shane voiced. Brandon's hand in his. "You save him." "We both do." Deeper conflict brewed when Harlan's will surfaced. Forgotten codicil leaving the old trailer to "My sons." Undivided. Selling meant erasing roots. Keeping invited ghosts. They drove to Blackford, keys in hand. Standing in the empty double-wide room where bunks once stood, now a blank canvas. "Burn it," Shane joked. But tears fell as they chose demolition. Bulldozers claiming the past. Proceeds funding Junior's college fund. Romance deepened in quiet revolutions. Anniversaries marked with river picnics, echoing their almost kiss. Shane's tattoo refreshed. Brandon's matched anew. Sex evolved, adventurous toys from Brooklyn shops. Role-play mining boyhood fantasies. Always circling back to tender, the core of their fire. Humanism bloomed in ripples. Volunteering at the center. Brandon mentoring a teen cast out like him. Shane teaching auto skills to at-risk youth. Lila's church hosted a PFLAG chapter. Her sermons shifting to love thy neighbor. Period. Emily's thaw completed in a joint Thanksgiving. Tables groaning under tickies and truths. Years layered like city sediment. By 2030, Junior thrived. A lanky teen with Shane's grin. Captaining the debate team. Dating a non-binary artist from Brooklyn visits. The loft expanded to a brownstone in Bed-Stuy. Garden for Scout successors. Walls hung with their art. Brandon's canvases of reclaimed brothers. Shane's salvaged Harley parts forged into sculptures. Betrayal scar faded to silver. Reminder, not ruler. One autumn eve. Porch swing creaking. Junior off at college orientation. They sipped whiskey, watching fireflies mimic long-ago fields. Regret that night? Brandon asked, head on Shane's shoulder. Only not sooner, Shane replied, kissing his temple. You? Brandon smiled, hazel eyes on the horizon. Nah. Got the room back. Better. With you in it. The city hummed lullaby. Stars pricking the smog. Two brothers. Lovers. Survivors in the American dream's gritty heart. Cast out once. They built their own heaven. Flawed. Fierce. Forever.